Welcome to the Life Makeovers podcast. My name is Cindy D. Whitmer, and I am the Midlife Makeover Coach, helping you turn your midlife into your best life, one step at a time. Through powerful conversations, my own midlife roller coaster story, and over 3 decades of helping people transform their lives through counseling and coaching, I am on a mission to help you create your own definition of success and happiness. Thank you for being here. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Life Makeovers podcast. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Today, I am blessed to have Jenn Hemmingsen with me, which is another woman going through the trenches of midlife like the rest of us, who's here to share some of her story with you today. I'm so excited. Sit back, relax, and enjoy it. Jenn, we've just gotten to know each other a little bit. We've just our universes have crossed recently, which I am super thankful for. What would you like the audience to know about you?
Oh, well, first of all, I feel the same way. I'm so glad to know you. I'm Jenn Hemmingsen. I've been a career journalist and I turned 50 in May. And so just been thinking about what I want the second half of my life to look like, and trying to make some big changes to bring my outside more into alignment with my inside and doing the whole thing. So, yeah.
Well, welcome to the 50s club. I'm 56, paving the way for you. So just keep
Thank
coming.
you.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
for me, it's been one of the best decades of my life, actually. How's it been for you?
So
Well,
far, it's been
just
amazing.
getting started.
Yeah, yeah. So far, it's been really amazing. I think, you know, um, for the last few years, I've been doing some hard thinking and changing. I gave up my what should have been my dream job at a big metro newspaper about a year ago because I realized that it just was not like it's like the hero's journey, right? Like you get what you wanted and then you realize it wasn't what you wanted all along. And so have been doing a lot of rethinking about sort of what my work life looks like. Work has always been really important to me. I also have a family, which is obviously very important to me. And I think like a lot of women in midlife, thinking about who I am outside of my relationships, because I've for so long, for all of my adult life, I've sort of defined my success and my usefulness and like myself by how I can be of service to other people. Obviously, I still want to do that, but I've been thinking more about like how do I take care of myself first, and who is this person who is in relationship to other people. And, I think so many of us, we put our heads down and we just kind of grind. And we figure that someday off in the distant future, we're going to be able to sit back and think about it and take a couple of breaths. But guess what? Like I'm 50. The distant future is like right now. If I'm going to live my life, I got to do it now. Right?
Oh my gosh, I totally agree with you. I say to women all the time, like, what are you waiting for now? Like
Hmm.
we all said all the reasons when we were in our 20s, when we were in our 30s, when we were 40, the kids need me, or I got to get educated, or I got to build my career, or I got to do that, whatever. And it's like, I love that you are reorganizing your life a bit and keeping the loved ones a strong priority, which we can all do, and move ourselves up the ladder at the same time. I
Right.
really love that. And I think, you represent so many women out there that I've talked to too, who are finding themselves kind of at a career crossroads as well, and just rethinking everything. It's like, what do we want this chapter, this next season of our lives to look like, at home, at work, working from home, whatever it is? So how's that
Yeah.
going? How's that transition and that exploration going for you?
Well, I think for me, I would have kept trying to play by the old rules until it became completely impossible, right? Like during the pandemic, it was completely impossible. I had a job I was supposed to be doing 40 hours a week. I had homeschool. I was personally like very afraid of what was going on. Like nobody knew what was next week was going to look like, right? And
Right.
so I think it took that experience of 2 years of just like if you put this on paper, there's literally no way any human being could do it, right? And so like before, when I fell short, I was always like, oh, it's my fault. I need to work harder, or I need to be more efficient, or I need to like prioritize better, or like I always figured out a way to put it on me that I wasn't able to be, like working 10 hours a day and be with my kids 10 hours a day and get plenty of sleep and take my bubble baths and all the other kind of stuff, my morning walk, all the stuff I'm supposed to do, right? Like I always tried to figure out how to make that math work and it wasn't going to work, but it wasn't until it became literally absolutely like unquestionably impossible that I was like, I think there's something wrong with the system, right? Like it's not me, it's the expectations and like and the support, the lack of support systems and the whole works, right? So for me that was a really clarifying moment where it was just like, okay, what does success feel like? Like what if Jennifer was a human person, right? Like what would a good day look like, you know? And so it's been a really interesting process, just like emotionally coming to terms with that, right? Because for so long, I think a lot of women maybe a certain segment of women, maybe like a lot of white women or a lot of like middle class women or whatever, whatever cohort I'm in, like have been really reluctant to say, this is kind of BS. This isn't working. We've always been taught that if you worked hard, you would get rewarded, right? And we see this in like women who are reluctant to ask for raises, women who are reluctant to have like really, really push the conversations at home about invisible labor, about all the stuff that we've just kind of been like, well, I can take that. Like, that's not that big of a deal. But you take like 20 of those and it gets to be a really big deal, right? And so, what I'm focusing on now is that system, right? So, helping people who are trying to rethink, the ground rules, right? What success looks like, what a successful woman is like, and what we can just kind of let go of, right? Like the perfectionism or the do-it-allness or this idea that we have to like be smiling all the time while we're doing all this stuff, right? Like some of that's just got to go. And so I'm really excited about finding communities of women who are having these conversations. I don't know what the right answer is. I don't think a lot of people know what the right answer is. You've got some amazing frameworks and you're helping women think through the questions, but I think having this conversation in public is really important because otherwise we do tend to think it's our fault if we haven't figured it out, and that's just not the case.
Yeah, I so appreciate everything you said there. That whole journey of thinking we can just keep piling it on and we have to do this and we have to do that and we have to do it well and we have to do it with a smile on our face. I love that. You remember the old commercial, like I can bring home the bacon, fry
Right?
and never let him forget he's a man. I mean,
Yeah.
that whole female classic training of I am here to serve the entire earth at home, at work, all the
Yeah.
organizations too. While I'm at it, I'll just be volunteer of the year in 14 organizations and keep my body perfect and beautiful by exercising an hour every day. And, and yeah.
Okay.
And then, wow. I mean, that's not a realistic plan. So I love how you talked about, looking at the old system or the ground rules and going, hold on, like what can we shift? What can we let go of? How can we release ourselves from the need to be perfect or to do it all or whatever, and
Mhm.
really get down to the bare bones of what is it that makes a quality life for each of us
Yeah.
individually? What's quality life to me? What's a quality life for Jen? What's a quality life for you listening out there? What really brings quality to your life? Real joy, real meaning. I think that's the $1 zillion question.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I know that personally I was so disconnected from even that kind of a question.
Mm,
I think I'm still
mm,
sorting through, you know?
mm.
Um,
Yeah.
it's 6 months later and I'm still kind of just figuring out what is really important to me and what I sort of assumed was important from what other people were telling me or putting on me, or this idea that I have to have this bulletproof exterior, like I don't know. But yeah, midlife is an interesting ride, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I think everyone would agree. I mean, there's all kinds of things happening. And yeah, and I think we've gone from, yeah, by midlife, we've already asked all the questions about how can I serve? How can I love other people? What do I need to do for others? How do I show up as the best business partner, wife if I'm a wife or partner, mother if I'm a mother, friend, community member, housekeeper, oh Lord, whatever. And shifted into who am I? Who am I really now? Like, I'm
Yeah,
not a list of tasks. I'm not a list of, and I'm not a servant in the world. I
right.
am me. I'm a person. Who am I? Who and
Yeah.
what is my purpose now, or what really drives me now? And that's where I think if we can answer those questions for ourselves, and that might shift 10 times in the next decade or year, and let ourselves go with the flow of those answers, I think that could really make our so-called second chapter extremely satisfying.
I love it. I love it. And you do such amazing work too, because I think having these conversations publicly and out loud makes it easier for people to have them, right? If nobody is having this conversation in public, as like awkward and uncomfortable as it can be, and like, I don't know, why I feel like I'm opening myself up for judgment if I say I am not a superhuman person, right? But like I think we all kind of do.
Sure.
So being able to have these conversations in public makes it easier for people to admit, yeah, you know what, like this is just not working for me and it's not me, you know, like there's something wrong with the way that we're carving out our lives or, living in isolation or, whatever the answer is. Like these are problems that are felt really acutely individually, but they're not individual problems. We wouldn't all be thinking these thoughts if it was an individual problem.
Yeah, and another thing I find around all of it, I don't know if you've had this experience at all, but I hear a lot of women with a real underlying tone of loneliness in their lives, like real loneliness. Do you
Yeah.
hear that from others? Have you experienced it yourself?
I think, yeah, no, honestly, I think part of it is that for so long, defining yourself in your roles to other people, it's hard to really connect on an individual level. If I meet all of my friends through work or my volunteer opportunities, or, as a like I've got people in my phone, they're women, but their names are, such and such as mom, right? So I remember who they are, right? So I'm not I'm
Yes,
not perfect at this either. And that's a really lonely place to be because you're negotiating relationships based on what you can do for people instead of who you are,
so
so like I'm not Jen, I'm the person who's going to bring cookies, or I'm not Jen, I'm the person who's going to like give somebody a ride. And so even when you are with people, it can be a lonely place because you aren't there as yourself, you're there as somebody who can be of use. And don't get me wrong, I love being of use. I love helping people and I love being a part of a community and feeling like, I'm making a difference there. But it
yeah,
is different than just having coffee with a friend. When for my 50th, my husband sent me and my best friend from high school back to Germany where we studied when we were in high school, right?
I like that.
And I had not spent, we spent 2 weeks traveling around Germany and France. And I had not spent that kind of time just as a person with a friend since I could remember, probably since high school, maybe college, right? But like after that, you don't I personally I hadn't and I like girls trip is like top of my list now of things that I need to do, right? It's not going to be every year, it's not going to be all the time, but like the way that that fed me was so completely different than anything else. I could take a million bubble baths and it would never even come close to just having time with somebody that I like who likes me with like nothing, no business to attend to, right?
It's just
Yeah,
freedom and exploration. And oh my goodness, that sounds fantastic. Let's all
it was
plan our girls trip, everyone. Wow. And like you said, It doesn't have to be worldwide and 2 weeks long. Actually, I just heard something. Oh, I can't remember where I heard this, but it's just the other day. And it was some study that said when women get together with other women for even just 1 hour a week and have a glass of wine or have lunch or go for a walk or something, that their mental health is just astronomically improved. Just one
I
hour
believe
a
it.
week.
Believe it.
Now,
Yeah.
that ought to be realistic for most of us. We ought to be able to
Yeah.
pull it off, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And who would think that would do such good? But wow, it's not, we don't have to make it tougher than it is either, right?
Great. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, either go to Germany, ladies, or go have lunch. Lunch in Germany. That might be a double whammy, right? Well, and the other thing too that I think is so important, and I say it all the time, so I'm sorry, listeners, if you're sick of it, but it's true. And that is when you were saying how, you do love to serve and it does bring you joy, and it does me too. I think where it goes sideways is when we miss out on ourselves as individuals, like you talked about too, in the name of serving everyone else. And so, but is that a
That's
which
fine.
one do I mean? I don't know. What I wanted to say was when we serve from a place of wholeness with
Right.
ourselves, then the ripple effect is amazing. Like it's
Right.
amazing. It goes far beyond who was I kind to today, or where did I volunteer today, or how did I help out over here with this, whatever. It just keeps going. And so what I think my encouragement is, let's be whole, let's feel whole and healthy with ourselves, with our relationship with who we are, how we show up, then serve where we feel really inspired to serve, not just the list everyone else gives us, but
Yes.
what are our absolute yeses around service and extending our love and practical support to others, and then let it really ride out that energy of positivity further and further and further.
I love that. I was not ever very deliberate about how I served.
Yes.
Like I would do what people asked me to do or what I thought they wanted me to do instead of thinking of my service as an investment,
Yeah.
So I'm spending my time and attention to make some things grow. I get to decide. It's not selfish for me to say, I want more of this in my life, or I want more of this in my community, or I want more of this in my family. So that's where I'm going to spend my time and attention. And so I think it feels different when you're giving in order to build something that you believe in, as
Mhm.
opposed to you're giving because people ask and you're afraid to say no.
Yeah, I once became the club volleyball coach when I had never played volleyball.
Right? I'll
But the
figure it out.
real,
I'll figure it out.
the real coach left town like the day it was supposed to start, and we had all these girls looking at us like, "What are we gonna do?" And I thought, oh my gosh, we've got to do something. So what do? Cindy
Hmm.
volunteers to be one of the coach.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my
And
gosh.
what an
Exactly.
example, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, but I think it ended up being an okay thing, but we weren't the best team in the district. I can sincerely say that, but the love was there, the passion was, but it's true. It's like, okay, who we are uniquely. We all come with unique gifts. We all come with unique personalities, and we're drawn and inspired to do certain things, truly. And those are our absolute yeses. I call them our absolute yeses. And then there's enlightened no's, things that really aren't our thing. Like if you don't know how to bake and they ask you to bring 3 dozen home baked goods, which nobody asks you to bring home baked goods anymore because of how the world's changed. But you know what I'm getting at.
I agree.
Don't go bake the cookies, people. Give an
Yeah.
enlightened no and offer to be the carpooler if you'd rather drive and pick
Uh,
up people or whatever. Because for someone, making the home baked goods is like, oh yeah, sign me up. I love doing that. I can make 150 of those in the time that, Cindy Whipper could make a dozen, right?
right. Right.
like, what are your absolute yeses and what are your enlightened nos?
I love that. Love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like, did you have a perception of what it would be like to be in midlife or age 50 before you got there? And how is that different how was the vision or the idea different than, or the same as it's turning out?
That's interesting. I thought things would feel a lot more settled,
Hmm.
you know? This is this is how this is how naive I was and how sort of fly by the seat of the pants I've always been. I always figured, okay, so I'd spend my first approximately 25 years figuring out what I wanted to do, approximately the next 50 years doing it, and then the last 25 years in review, because I'm gonna live to be 100, right? So that
Bell
was my
curve.
life
That
plan.
was your bell curve vision for your life. The big 50 in the middle
Yeah.
is what you were going to do, and then
So
scale
not exactly. Yeah, yeah. But you know what? My dad actually was a really great example for me because he was very my parents were both very hardworking, very Midwestern. I come from a working class background. So both my parents went to business school and like 2-year college. And my dad started working for a retailer selling shoes when he was in college. And he got into their management training program and he worked his way up and he became a store manager. And that was his dream, right? And he was in his late 40s, early 50s when he got to this. And then he got laid off in his mid 50s, right?
up.
His resume was like 1 line long. He had worked for the same company since he was in college, and he had fully expected to retire from there, and it was that very sort of like traditional, like you give to the company takes care of you, that old model that just, frankly, if it exists, I haven't worked at those workplaces anymore, but
Get the gold
and so
watch and the
he,
thing, your 401k,
yeah,
take you out.
Gold watch guy. Yeah, yeah. So, but he was, he still had, 15, 20 years of work left and he was completely at sea. And so watching him go through that, and he handled it with such grace and with such calm, like I would have just been like freaking out, right?
Good.
He had such calm and such grace and such presence of mind, that he was like a really great model for me. And so when I was younger, I never would have anticipated this. But as the pandemic happened and as I realized that there were parts of my life, big parts of my life, were just not fitting and were not going to fit, and I had to do something about it, I looked back and I thought about him in that moment, and like you could see the grief. He wasn't like falsely positive about it, but he was just like, this is what's happening, right? And he ended up with a second career that he just absolutely loved. And so it took a minute, he didn't turn around and find this second half of life, because he needed it right now and the uncertainty was killing him, right? He had to live with the uncertainty for a while. But I think, you know, making sure that I'm accessing all of the wisdom and all of the knowledge that I have accumulated in that first half of life to make a deliberate choice about what this next act is going to look like. Like I had a really great model for that, and I'm really grateful for that.
I love that about him too. And I admire that. I really admire that he was able to, it seems, accept what was, remain calm, and then work on navigating into that next flow, professional flow in his life. And yeah, what a great role model to all of us. And that's, part of what we talked about on the podcast last week was unexpected pivots in life. And that's
Mm,
exactly what your dad experienced. And I
yeah,
think that is important for us all to understand that midlife is sort of like equates to that in so many ways, whether it's the hormonal fluctuations that are, and how the body changes to career blindsidedness that can happen, or just that feeling that so many women have where they kind of wake up in their 40s and 50s and go, now what? Like, who am I now? And what the heck? Like, how did I end up here? Or what now? Or is it all downhill from here? I hear that all the time.
right.
All downhill from here. Like, we're just going to get older, sicker, die, you know? So I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so being calm in those, uh, those unexpected or just all those question marks in our mind, right?
Yeah. I used to really run for answers right now because I didn't like that icky feeling of not knowing what was happening next.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, learning to be comfortable with the not knowing or the uncertainty is huge, isn't it? It's really
Yeah.
huge. And one of the things we know by midlife too is that we can survive anything because we already have,
Right.
right? But
Right.
we forget, I think sometimes people forget how strong they are sometimes.
That's such a good point. I think you're right. Yeah.
Mm. When have you needed to be strongest in your life, do you think?
Oh, I think, like everybody, there have been sort of like jolts out of the blue. I think there's kind of like two kinds of strength, right? There's the sort of like immediate emergency kind of strength you have to have.
Yes.
But then there's also like the enduring strength, right? So, um, yeah, I mean, the pandemic was a great example of having to like be strong over a long, uncertain period of time. And it's easy to forget those early days. Like we thought it was going to be over in a couple weeks. We thought it was going to be over in a couple, and then it just kept going. And then there was like, well, will it ever end? Like, is this it forever now? And so having to stay strong during that as, things were shifting and people were having just like problems meeting basic needs and there was no real clear picture of what things were going to end up like that takes a certain kind of strength and then there are the accidents the relationship ruptures like those kinds of things that are just like everything changes in an instant like you said those pivot points that take a maybe a different kind of strength. Yeah.
I love that distinction you've mapped out there. Like, what is strength when there's a crisis or emergency or immediate need for strength, and what is the difference when it's a longer term endurance test, like the marathon of strength needed
Yeah.
in the pandemic, when all the
Yeah.
rules are changing and you don't know. And that happens to people who suddenly their partner decides to leave. All the rules have
Hmm.
changed, or the kids are all grown and gone. Then it's the empty nest, and now have the rules have changed again, or you lose your job. Oh, new rules. It's all
Right.
what? Wait, what? Wait. So, what have you found? Like, what is really strengthening for you in your life? What gets you through whatever midlife hands you?
That's such a great question. I feel like I'm a work in progress on that one. I have started, well, I stopped drinking 2 years ago, and that has been huge. I used
Oh.
to drink alcohol, and like a lot of people, I did it kind of out of habit or because it was like a way to reset at the end of the day. And I realized that hitting the reset button was not really the best approach for me. Like for me at the time, I needed to figure out a way to live my life all the time and
Mm-hmm.
not like my life until happy hour, right? And then start over the next day. Like it was in this sort of like Groundhog Day. I felt like I was in this kind of like Groundhog Day where I wasn't really solving issues. I was just dealing with them. I was just managing them. And so that was really interesting. Like actually like not drinking was not that big of a deal, but dealing with all the stuff that I wasn't dealing with because I didn't have to was a huge deal. And I feel like I'm still kind of sifting through that. And so as a part of that process, I kind of start my day off. My best days start off with a walk on the beach because I live in a really beautiful, I'm lucky to live in a really beautiful area of the Pacific Northwest where I can, like, I'm a 5 minute drive away from a really nice beach overlooking the Puget Sound in Seattle. And so I just kind of go up and down and I just, clear my head and I just talk to, whatever's out there to my higher power, right? Like try and focus myself however you want to describe it. Getting grounded, figuring out what my priorities for the day are going to be, setting an intention to focus on the stuff that's important and to not feed the stuff that's not important. I think, if I can do that every day, I have a better day. And like there are days when I don't know how I'm going to do it or what I'm going to be doing, but if I do that at the beginning of the day, it helps me identify throughout the day. Things just kind of roll easier. And I don't do everything. I don't have to do everything, right? Like I'm no longer, I've got my to-do list. I'm not going to lie, right? But I'm not married to it the way that I used to be. Like every day I would put 20 things on a list. And then every day I would feel like a failure because I only did 5 or 10 or 12 or whatever I did, right? And it was just like such a horrible way I kind of like flogged myself to keep going, right? It was just like this baseline of not enough, um, no matter what I got done. And I just decided I'm not doing that anymore. Like that's silly. Like if I can't be enough, then I need to just be what I am.
Mhm.
I can't keep feeling like someday I'm going to magically become a better person. and I keep moving that line. So every time I have an accomplishment, it feels good for a couple minutes, but then I have, more things on my list or more things that I have to get done or more things I have to be, right? And so I just like over the last couple of years, I'm just like, I'm gonna just be what I am. And it's and not worry so much about whether that's good enough because like this is just the way I am made, right? And so I've been spending 50 years trying to improve and trying to do and trying to give and be, and now it's just like I have to say like this is the tool I'm working with, right? And I'm not the manufacturer, right? Like I didn't choose most of what's going on here. Like this is just how I am. And so just what can I do with that? Like, how do I put this to use,
Yeah. Maximize who you really are.
Yeah, exactly.
That is all
Exactly.
you need to do is be you,
Uh,
right? And that's
yeah.
enough, right? Yes, there's always another something to put on the to-do list. There's always
Yeah.
that I've also heard, recently the concept of more and more and more, and like, when people think, okay, when I reach my first million, then I'll arrive, but then they get the first million and they think, okay, now how can I get the second million? Or
Right.
you get the first 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom house, and then you think, oh, well, let's get the 4 bedroom, 5 bathroom house, or I got this award for that. So now what's the next project that I can submit for the next award? Or, it's just like, really? I mean, it's
Yeah.
exhausting. It's
And it
just,
was such an interesting, yeah. And it's been such an interesting process because at first it felt really lazy, right? I'm like, I am being lazy. I am settling for, like, right? I should be like on this constant elevator. I don't know where I was headed, right? But like it felt really lazy. And then I realized like how much of what I had been doing was just performative, right? Like I wasn't being effective because it wasn't going back to that idea of like, it wasn't me doing these things,
you know,
So if I'm here to do something, and sometimes I feel like I have a better idea than others of what that is, like it has to be me that does it, right? That's kind of the point,
mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Yes, it's our job to live our lives. And if we
right,
don't start doing it when we're in our 50s, I'm not quite sure when we're going to start doing it,
exactly.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Job
Yeah.
to live our lives. It's so I talk about, women, we need to be the leaders in our lives. And that's what I feel like you're saying right there it's up to you to define who am I? Who am I
Yeah.
right now? Not who was I 20 years ago, or if it's the same in some ways, great, as long as it's who you want to be and you're doing the things that feel like they're truly quality, meaningful things for
Right.
you from your
Yeah.
perspective.
And stop apologizing and minimizing and downplaying the things that you really do well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, women, stop apologizing. Wow. And we are masters at apologizing. And not even
And
for
it gets
things
into
that
your head.
yeah, what is
Yeah.
that? What is that guilt based? Oh, sorry, 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 sorry. Oh my. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Okay, well, wow, what a thriving conversation this has been. So, if there's any last juicy anything you'd like to share, what would that be to say? What's your encouragement to women who are listening out there?
My only encouragement would be to like just be out there with this stuff. It's uncomfortable and it feels weird, but I really do think that the more women who are honest about their experience, you know, we get so many subtle messages so many times a day from people we love, from people, from media, from people around us, that talking about our experiences is too much, right? I think so many of us are so afraid of being too much that we really only scratch the surface of what it's like to be a woman right now, a woman at midlife. Um, and we need more conversation, more meaningful and honest conversation, not, like humble brags or, like weird competitive, like
Mhm. Yes.
whatever you want to call that, right? Like, but more honest, authentic conversation about what it's like right now so that we can actually stop being so lonely and we can stop being at the mercy of these systems and we can start to say, here's what we need, here's how we build it, and then just like make sure that we're not passing this on to the next generation so that when our daughters are at midlife, it's not all of this like literally unlearning half of what you were doing in the first half of your life, right? Like, how awesome would that be to not just unload this work on the next generation?
Yes, that would be fantastic. Yeah, we're teaching the younger generation of women what it's like to be a woman later in life, right now.
Right,
We're showing them.
right.
And we can either
Yeah,
show them that, we can be peaceful, happy, healthy, age well, and love life kind of gals, or we can show them the opposite. And yeah, I'm on a mission to show
I
them
love
that
it.
domestic life can just keep
Yeah,
becoming everything. So,
it's awesome.
well, oh, Jenn, thank you so much. You're just a
Thank
delight.
you.
I could sit here all day long with you, but don't worry, I won't. I'll let you go, but no, I
It's
really,
been a real pleasure. Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
oh gosh, it's been so great to talk with you. Now, if anybody wants to reach out to you, is there somewhere they can connect with you? Or I forgot to ask you
Yeah,
time if you
yeah,
would.
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, so it's Jennifer Hemmingsen. I think it's just J Hemmingsen is my /. You can also email if you want to at jen@wofc.io. I love having these conversations, and my current sort of like passion is helping women express themselves in writing. So thinking about telling their stories authentically. So yeah, definitely happy to have a conversation about any of this stuff for sure.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, listen, ladies, thank you for joining us here today on the Life Makeovers podcast. And remember, if you want a free midlife strategy session where I will, hear your story, see where you're stuck, and see what I can offer in terms of building your confidence to navigate that in a better way, please just go to timewithcindy.com and set up a time. And I'll look forward to talking with you there. All right, everybody, have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Life Makeovers podcast. Please like, subscribe, and share this podcast with those that you think would also benefit from what we're doing here. And I will talk to you again soon.